Albemarle County Schools receive each time one of your children or grandchildren walk through the door, they receive $11,000 to educate your child. And Charlottesville City Schools receives $16,000 a year to educate your child. Now, I've worked at the Catholic school, private school, and the Catholic school can do it better for half the price of Charlottesville and for $3,000 less than Albemarle County Schools. How can that be? I think one of the things is that administrators are very plentiful in both of the schools. Yes. And the other thing is they are working on a fixed budget rather than a zero balance budget. And our Board of Supervisors, with enough encouragement, should pass an amendment that says that our schools should work off of a zero balanced budget. What does that really mean? It means that every year they are guaranteed so much money to spend, and they are obligated to spend that money. Well, I have been in the schools when they are in a spending frenzy because they've got a chunk of money and they don't know what to do with it. But for goodness sakes, I have to spend it because we won't get it next year if we don't spend it. And it's been spent in not healthy ways or not intelligent ways. I'm going to just take one facet of spending, that would be books. Textbooks are expensive. And we have more, we could build a pyramid with the textbooks that we have that are not being used in Albemarle County and in Charlottesville High School. And do we continue to buy them? Yes, we do. Not only textbooks, but what are called trade books, those little books. It is amazing when I walk into classrooms, libraries, and storage areas, the amount of books that we have is incredible. And I'm not making this up, there have been dumpsters filled with books that are new, not used, and certainly in great condition. But in the dark of night, they get into the dumpster because we need to order more next year. Again, encouraging our supervisors and the city council to end fixed spending and make it a zero balance budget would really improve. And now I only have one more suggestion to do. Let us make sure that everybody we know, our neighbors, our friends, our acquaintances, know how wonderful all the people in the Tea Party are. How open-minded, how intelligent, and how generous we are, and how our efforts are so positive for the country. And invite everyone you know to please join us and tell them that they are going to have a voice in America by joining the Tea Party movement. Thank you so much.
But there is somebody in conservative talk radio who's talented enough to also be a very talented musician. And if you can find the right YouTube links, you can see that as well. He spent some time inside as well, where he watched city council go ahead and say, no, there's always going to be more money coming from somewhere. And he kept them late at night. They still rue those days when, at 2 o'clock at night, 3 o'clock in the morning, Rob would finally let them all go home. Ladies and gentlemen, from WINA Radio, Rob Schilling.
And you know, it's funny Joe mentioned the music thing, because as a recovering former rock and roller, I never thought I would say this. Hey, can you please turn it down? You know how many times I heard that. And isn't it interesting that we're here in front of this pit of vipers in Charlottesville City Hall on this day talking about taxes, the people that have robbed this community of $50 million in surpluses over the last 10 years and lined their pockets and then brag about it every year. Mayor Norris the Red, you should be humiliated. Your face should match your hair. You know, the topic of this talk today is It's the Spending Stupid, but I would elaborate on that a little bit. It's the stupid spending, all right? And I'm going to go one step further, and I hope I don't insult anybody, but it's also the stupid people, all right? Because that is the problem. The people who have taken the reins are not informed. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of the people to whom I reference. It was not long ago up in Greene County, defensible ground, as one man said, that Tom Perriello was holding a rally, and in the front of the rally, this was shortly before he was defeated. Yes, indeed. We all breathed a sigh of relief when that happened. There was a lady who was old enough to know better walking around with a shirt that said, "Patriots for Perriello. If ever there was a contradiction, I have not seen it." Now let me tell you about this. The Patriots opposed unjust taxation. Do we remember that? Do we remember what people died for? Do you remember, "I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country," Nathan Hale, as he was taken to be hanged? And we have somebody saying "Patriots for Perriello," a man who never met a tax increase that he didn't like. Did Nathan Hale die for the Cowboy Poetry Festival in Nevada? No. Did Nathan Hale die to fund Planned Parenthood and their abortions and evil agenda? No. Did Nathan Hale die to fund so-called public broadcasting? No, he did not. And so these people are warping patriotism into something that it never was. And the lady who wore the shirt that said "Patriots for Perriello" was nothing but a lie.
Keep this short and sweet because it's time to get serious. Now this is about tax day. We're talking about spending on tax day today. And the reason we're doing that is because it doesn't really matter how much they tax us. It matters how much they spend. Right now, the government's spending about 25% of the economy, 25% of our annual production, our GDP, is being spent. They're taxing us for about 19%. Now, where do you think the other 6% comes from? It's coming out of our hides one way or the other. I can tell you exactly how it's starting to come out right now. There's a guy who runs a report called the Shadow Government Statistics, I think is what it's called, where he looks at how they used to calculate various government statistics and runs the numbers compared to how they've changed them subtly over the years. This guy found out if we calculate inflation the same way we did in 1979, the current inflation rate would be 10%. So what that means is that 6% of extra money that they're borrowing, they've got a plan. You know, people say Barack Obama doesn't have a plan to deal with the debt. Oh yes, he does. He has a plan that he doesn't dare admit in the light of day. The plan is to inflate, to let Ben Bernanke inflate the currency, and all that money will just come out of our pockets eventually, and we'll have $20 trillion in debt that will be, what you find in the change in your mattress. So what they're doing is they're taking that money comes out of us one way or the other. Somebody give me a hand there. That money comes out of us one way or the other. If it doesn't come out of us in taxes, it comes out of inflation, it comes out in debt, it comes out in some way, directly or indirectly. And so Milton Friedman, I think it was, who said years ago that the effective rate of a nation's taxation, the actual rate of taxation people pay, no matter what the nominal amount is, the effective rate of a nation's taxation is the rate of its spending. So if we want to look at spending, we have to look at what is it that's really driving the runaway government spending in Washington.